welcome to QI for a show that is unashamedly kinky. Joining me on the top shelf at the newsagents tonight are dominatrix Janet Street Porter, Nun on the Run Sandy Toksvig, Naughty Vicar Johnny Vegas, and Kinky Tinky Winky Alan Davis. Right, so before we get down to business, I want you all to give me the horn. Janet goes...
You've been a very naughty boy.
Sandy goes... Johnny goes... And Alan goes... Whatever floats your boat. Now, on with our first question. Describe the technique of the world's greatest kisser.
Was there a contest?
There was.
An actual winner?
There was, and there was a winner.
Is it a human or
It was
an animal?
Have you been kissed by an animal, ever, Janet?
Donkey, maybe.
I've kissed...
Only in a
You didn't
nonsense.
know?
A tiny bit of bile came up in the back of my throat.
This was a competition, and as you might imagine, if cliché were piled upon cliché, which nationality would win?
Scandinavia.
The Scandinavians? The Italians? No,
The French?
Les Français.
Oh,
oui.
it's the
It was the
I
Français.
think it's the Scottish.
Have you found them particularly good osculators?
No, I just did a quick survey in my head. And I could only remember 4 countries. It certainly wasn't the Australians.
No. His name was André Brûlé. He was a famous actor in the first part of the 20th century, a rather stylish actor. And there was a competition. It was just after the First World War. It was in Biarritz. 80 participants, as far away as Russia and America took part. And American kisses were described as flaccid.
I would have said forceful.
Forceful, no, you would have thought. Russians were eruptive. Italians, burning, which you'd think was good. Ardent is another word for burning. Ardent kisses.
I'm still on erupting kisses. What are those like?
Volcanic.
I think that was a bit second about
Oh, yeah, no.
That's not where you think you're getting a normal kiss and they suddenly stick their tongue out and you weren't expecting it.
That can happen. I know.
Or you kiss them and you put your hands up and shout, bingo!
But I'm afraid the word that was described for English kisses is almost all too predictable.
Cheap.
Frigid.
Wet.
Moist.
Tepid.
Tepid.
Oh, wonderful. I'm disappointed in Ocean Meal. Spanish were vampirish or vampirish, however you would say it, vampire-like. But the winner, who, although he was a Frenchman, French kisses were described as chaste. Which is most
French
unsurprising.
kissing is...
French kissing itself is far from chaste. It's
cataclysm.
It's cataclysmic,
Yes.
exactly.
No, the actual word for it is cataclysm.
Oh, is that what they call it?
It's called, yes, and it's something pigeons do, bizarrely. Who knew? When you see 2 pigeons billing and cooing, yes, they're actually sticking their tongue down each other's... Yeah, and it's...
Not swapping pigeon milk.
No, so it's much better to say to somebody if they don't know what it is. If you want a French kiss, do you mind if we do a bit of cataclysm? And they're bound to say yes because they've no idea what it
You
is.
may be thinking of cataglottism, which is the
Cataglottism,
tongue
yes.
with the glot. Cataclysm is a disaster.
No, no,
which
I
you
think
wouldn't want.
you misheard me. It's my Danish accent.
Oh, I see, right.
Can I ask Sandy a question about the pigeons?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do they have sex through their mouths?
No, no, no.
Or how do they have sex, just by the way?
The normal way.
In the normal way.
Normal
they
way,
have
yes. Is this news to you? I know you've been married a few times, but you don't have children, do you?
No, I don't have children, but I've never had sex with a pigeon either. I just...
Can I just
Call
say...
yourself a Londoner.
The pleasure of Janet questioning 2 homosexuals on this subject is...
You're going extra short. They're doing it! No, they're feeding.
Do you have any familiarity with anything kinky, though?
Yeah, I once had a boyfriend who said he wanted me to tie him up and be a dominatrix, and he booked a suite in a hotel and ordered a load of drinks, and just as the butler brought the drinks, he got out a dildo and a pair of handcuffs, so I had to sit on both sex toys at the same time.
Oh, my God.
Anyway.
Sit on the handcuffs?
I sat on everything. I didn't want me to be associated with all this hardware.
Oh, to sit on them to hide them?
Yes.
Sorry. Were they furry handcuffs?
No, the normal ones, and in the morning when he was asleep, I just handcuffed his foot to the end of the bed and left.
Wow.
You should have made him finish your book first.
Is it just men in the kissing competition?
Yes, it was.
See, I suppose they wouldn't have had women showing off their kissing technique,
No.
that would have been thought to be
Not
appalling.
not in those days, exactly.
What was he kissing? The back of his hand?
No, he was kissing women, but he was kissing them. It wasn't a mutual kiss, if you see what I mean. He gave them kisses. The idea was the technique, he would grab their waist and sort of push himself down. The whole thing was almost like a sort of ballet dance. It was not about the actual sort of long snog. It was about the elegance with which you did it. And that's where he won his awards. And there's a very famous photograph, you probably know, of a similar kiss, which is amazingly evocative of a great victory, VJ Day.
Oh, the one with the sailor and
The sailor and the woman in New York, which is hugely famous. And in 2012, that recently, they were reunited. They're both alive. Her name is Greta Friedman, and he is George Mendonça. They had never met. He just simply saw her in the street, swooped her up and kissed her, and the photographer got virtually the photograph of the...
Didn't she rather famously slap him afterwards?
She was not pleased at all, no, absolutely. But when they had a reunion in 2012, they were very friendly, and she realised it was a fabulous moment. He was swept up in the joy of VJ Day.
So did they shag?
I think not if she slapped him afterwards, although...
I mean,
probably...
on the reunion.
On the reunion?
That's my point. You know, when there's no,
Yeah.
you know, victory anywhere day, and you're just speed dating and you do that.
Then you're not likely
Somebody
to be
takes a picture.
thanked. Yes.
No, you're likely to end up in a court with injuries for you lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. But according to Theocritus, in the city of Megara, they had a version of the Olympic Games where there was a kissing competition, which was only between boys. Yeah, I know. I know. Too late, they cried.
Overpower one another.
No, it was
Back
about...
to the Greco-Roman snogging.
No, it's those who so sweetliest press his lip upon lip. Sweetliest.
If they'd had that in the Olympics, I'd have watched.
Yes. And they return laden with garlands for their mothers. So, if you win the boys' kissing competition, you get garlands, which, interestingly, in Greek is Stevens. I just thought I'd mention that. That's what my name means. And you give your mother lots of flowers saying, I won the kissing competition with boys. And she goes, darling, we have to talk. Just don't tell your father. So there you go. The world's greatest kisser was a French actor named André Brulé. But who was the most shocking kisser of all time?
Thor.
Oh, hello. There we've got two... they're probably called...
Britney Spears and Madonna.
That is, you can just see, is what pigeons do. That's...
Oh, yes.
There was only one marshmallow left.
I've only ever had one screen kiss, and it was with the wonderful American comic Mike McShane.
Oh, yes.
Mike McShane.
You did a sitcom with
The
it.
sitcom together. And he knew I was very nervous about the kiss, because I didn't want it to be comic, I wanted it to be real. There's always that worry when you're doing a comedy. And he knew this, and so I was very anxious. And the very first time he leant down, and he kissed me and passed me an anchovy with his tongue. I was less nervous after that.
Yeah, I had a film where I had to kiss Jude Law and Ewan Griffith. It was awful. And nude. Oh, God. Misery. But anyway, shocking kisses. That's, I suppose, shocked some people because it's lesbiotic, but...
Lesbiotic? I must go home and give the good news.
They had a shocking kiss in Star Trek.
Really?
There's an episode where Captain Kirk kisses Uhuru, Lieutenant Uhuru. So it's interracial.
Oh,
Yes.
very shocking.
And that was not thought would go well in the southern affiliates.
Right.
So they
did you
shot
think
it
that-
so that one of them had their back to camera, so you knew they were kissing, but you couldn't actually see it, just in case down south they didn't kick off.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a screen kiss or a...
No, but I'm
An
talking about the
electric
word shocking. Thank you,
Is
Alan.
it something electrical to do
Yes,
with
the
it?
Venus electrificata. It's one of those things. Whenever you invent a new technology, people experiment with it in extraordinary ways. And of course, electricity. When the power to generate electricity first arrived, people tried all kinds of exciting things with it. And one of them was to suspend a woman such that she was not earthed, and then get men who were earthed to kiss her. And you can see he's winding round there in order to create an electric current. And you kiss them and you get a tingling feeling.
Well, we used to, when I was a kid, I grew up in the United States, we used to have electric shock parties. Because you had very cheap...
put your tongue on the batteries?
No, you had sort of cheap nylon carpet, and we'd turn the lights out, and everybody would stand and rub their feet on the carpet like this, and then they'd go, now, and you'd all kiss, and there'd be a little spark.
Yes, we used to do that at prep school. We had an area which would cut off for the ponies to graze, which was the electric fence. You grab the electric fence, and the shot would go through like a wave through the whole line of us. It was kind of rather fun. There was also Stephen Gray and his amazing orphan boy, who he hung down and put a current through him, and the current attracted various objects. And this became so popular, he actually made a kit. You had to provide your own boy, but otherwise you had the kit with various glass rods and things like that the electricity would pick up. But as with all new inventions of any kind, people are going to try...
Electric cock.
Yes. And it was discovered in ultraviolet light. Johann Ritter decided he would try... In the early days, there was what was known as a voltaic pile, i.e. a battery, and he basically tried it on his groin. And he described it. His organ began in a state of medium swelling, what we call a semi, I guess. He wrapped it in a piece of cloth, I hope you're taking notes at home, moistened with lukewarm milk. That's lukewarm. Try to put your elbow in it, and if it doesn't burn, and it's not cold, like with a baby's bath, OK, you're following, you're taking notes, I'm doing it slow enough, then delicately you touch the wire from the positive pole to the cloth, and with the other hand you close the circuit. A shock jolted him, followed by a pleasant tingling. The swelling continued. Warmth spread from his groin, and then, finally, consummation.
What kind of sex was he having?
Electric sex.
Yeah, but I mean, before that,
Oh,
I was
before
going,
that.
oh,
It sounds
you're
like
a lovely
tease,
person.
mate.
It's not you, it's me. I just like dipping my testicles in warm milk and then running away than me. Because, no, it's great. Hey, Christmas was fantastic, but this might spoil it for the rest of the family.
Aren't you going to do a disclaimer?
I'm not going to do a display.
Please, we love
I thought you were going to say
disclaimer.
demonstration.
All right, then. Boil a kettle and throw it on your genitals. Let's just say it over.
Don't try this at home.
You're sitting in your house and the lights start flickering and you know he's at it next door with a milk cloth.
Yes. I mean, I'm sorry,
Channel 5's gone off, it'll be him next door with a...
You know, at
Yeah.
Christmas, they always say when all the lights go down and you can't cook your turkey, it's because we're all watching telly. It's not, because all over Britain people are...
I'm trying basically lukewarm
They've
milk
got
on there.
milk on their willies.
Yes.
I shared a dressing room for a while with a very short actor, and I came into the dressing room one evening. I think I was a bit early, I wasn't expecting. He was completely naked, and he was trying to get his entire genitalia up into the basin. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was a good idea." I said, "What?" I'd got some muscle heat rub. He thought, but it feels so nice on your legs.
The men are wincing already in the audience. Ah, I'm sure Alan has many similar stories to tell. Here's a really weird one. In 2005, a boy was admitted to hospital with 2 neodymium magnets, the strongest permanent magnets known to us, trapping a fold, shall we say, of his penis. He claimed that he'd fallen down, or they'd fallen down his trousers while he was playing with them. But they were so strong that they didn't know what to do. Magnets can be demagnetized by heating them to a very high temperature, which would be very kind, or they could be hammered apart. So they were faced with a real medical problem to save this boy's future, as it were. So they tried alternative solutions, such as bigger magnets. In the end, they managed to remove them by shearing the magnets away from each other, moving them perpendicular to the force of attraction. So, don't try those magnets at home. Anyway, let's move on. What's going on here?
Ooh. Are they...
Are they not a word as a piece of glass?
Kissing fish.
Are they fighting?
They're fighting.
I think they're called kissing fish, but
Yeah, but
because
that
it's
may
what
well
it
be.
looks like. But
But
they're,
yeah, but they don't
But
kiss.
they're not kissing; they're fighting.
Exactly right. Gourami is their name. They don't kill each other by doing that, but one of them will get really knackered and sometimes dies of exhaustion. It's never utterly fatal.
It looks like the end of a balloon, doesn't
It
it?
does, doesn't it? It's just like the end of the balloon. And what other fighting fish do we know?
Oh,
The what do you find is that fighting fish?
well, they call them samurai fighting fish. But
Not samurai, no. Siamese fighting fish. Very popular. They're used like cockfighting as a sport. They keep each separate in a little, just alone in a tank, so it doesn't waste its energy by seeing another male.
There's another version and they have little swords.
Well, they're really vicious fighters, and the one that loses just flees for its life, basically. But you bet on them, essentially. It's like cockfighting used to be.
They're not the fish that eat all that spare skin off your feet, are they?
Oh, supposedly,
Have you
that's
done
right.
that,
Have you done that? Yeah.
No, I'm a bit worried that if I
Really?
put my feet in the hot water with a little fish...
This is for pedicures, where they put these tiny little fish in, isn't it? And they supposedly nibble away at your dead
Be
skin.
you
more
worried
worried
it
that they
would be
didn't
some-
want my feet.
That's an
Put your
insult.
feet and they all go to the side again.
Ugh. Yeah.
Get a little mouth pocket.
I've done it. At first, it's really strange, and then when you get used to it, what's stranger is 15 people filming you. Like you've got your feet in tank going, ooh.
You did it on a for TV thing, did you?
No, I just did it in a shopping centre.
And all 15 passers-by decided...
Yeah, just like, oh,
There's
look at-
that Johnny
look at-
Vegas
look
having
at
his feet...
Johnny Vegas getting off and putting his feet in water.
Yeah. They have a lung-like organ in their bodies, these fighting fish, which means that they can breathe air. And actually, if we had enough supersaturated water with oxygen, we would be able to breathe water. And some people believe this is the future of the human race for, for diving and space travel and things like that, that we actually breathe water.
You do know after this I'm going to go home and drown.
No, don't do it. I'm going to write out a list.
I take in bits of what you
Yes.
say to me and then guarantee my family, it's safe. Stephen said I can breathe underwater.
There are certain earlier
I
things,
am the future!
there are certain earlier things I've recommended that you can certainly do, but not the breathing of the water. But the lukewarm milk is fine, you can try that. Yeah.
I'd rather just drink it.
Sorry. God. Yes, I understand. So, good. When Gurami appear to be kissing, they're actually fighting. What's so attractive about ordinary people? Not the movie, which is a very fine movie, of course.
It's the massive cars they drive. Buses.
Ordinary people drive buses. Well, you mean ordinary people are on buses?
Yeah.
Well, it's not quite symmetry. This is known as coenophilia, and it seems that if you take two not very good-looking people and merge their image, people are more likely to be attracted to them. And Galton, who was a famous criminologist and was interested in the appearance of criminals, thought he would try and find the absolute criminal type by taking photographs of criminals and merging them. And he was astonished to find the more he did so, the more pleasant they appeared to be. So you average out people's looks, and we are more attracted to that, it seems. We've actually done a little merge of some of our friends around the table just to show you how attractive you look when you put them together.
Oh, yeah.
Ta-da!
Oh, yeah.
It's Jean from Tenerife.
Oh, no, he likes it.
You do look like a tennis player with an open piano lid. Looks very nice. And let's try the other two.
Serial killer.
Let's not have
The eyes.
Police are currently looking for...
There's something a bit odd about the eyes there. It's from your photograph, though, Johnny.
Just look like the biggest idiot in the world.
I think someone took your photograph and did one of those, you know, red-eye things.
No, he looks like someone who walked in and caught his parents having sex and they didn't stop.
Was the sort of man the police say, oh, he was quiet, always kept to himself?
Yes, he was just perfectly nice.
He used to cry a lot at Christmas.
Well, as I say, it's called coenophilia, and it is this theory. Recent research, however, from the Australian National University suggests that good-looking men earn 22% more than not good-looking men.
Yeah, because they're attractive, or because they're from Australia?
No, within Australia. They're all Australian. Within Australia, the 22 better-looking percentage. A study of female golfers also found that they were better. They shot lower scores. And the theory is that they were more likely to have offers of sponsorship and therefore just played that much harder, knowing how much money they would make.
But surely it's about confidence as well. If you look in the mirror and you think, wow, I'm a dish, then you get out and I can play golf.
Yeah, I suppose that's right.
But if you look in the mirror and weep...
And think, what a...
Well, I look in the mirror and I like it.
Yeah, and so you bloody well should.
I never look in the mirror. My partner's much taller than me and she put them all up, so I have never...
I don't have mirrors. I have windows at street level and I just pretend I'm different people. I just walk past at the same time and go, looking good today. Let's get out to that meeting quick while I've got that nice suit on. I realise I'm wearing a bin bag.
Anyway, moving on. Now, what would you keep in one of these? I have one. There it is.
Oh, is it a
penis.
Is it
Yeah,
a penis?
penis is the right answer, Alan. It usually is the right answer.
Is it from the...
Is it hollow?
Is it an African...
It's hollow, obviously, otherwise you'd have trouble
Is
keeping it in.
it from Africa?
It's not from Africa, no.
Where's it from?
It's from Papua New Guinea.
It's what anteaters were when they're going to rob a post office. It's just that little bit of disguise. Is that you, Frank? No. Oh, no.
I've been to Papua New
They
Guinea
can
and
be
I've
different
seen
sizes.
it wibbly-wobbling
They can be like this. But, oddly enough, they're not worn for status. They don't deliberately have a big, thick one like that in order to suggest greater manhood. They often have a thin, rather strangely trailing away one with a few hairs on the end, like this, exactly.
That would really confuse Bugs Bunny. I'm out of the wabbit! Maybe I just want to be friends.
What's it made of?
It's a gourd. It's a
like
penis
this-
gourd, and it's a sort of relative of the squash family, I think, isn't it?
I went to Papua New Guinea.
Amazing place.
It's fantastic. And I was taken to this remote island on a boat, and then they painted me with war paint and presented me with a pig and a pile of yams.
Oh.
And then they did these gourd dances.
Really
to me.
right at you.
Right
Wow.
at me, yes.
They
It's
dined
really,
on yams and
really
clams and
impressive.
human hams and vintage coconut wine, the taste of which was filthy,
Fabulous.
but the after effects divine.
I feel just like that in a taxi rank in Wigan.
Amongst the tribes that have these kotikas, as they're called, are, in case there's any members watching, and I don't want to leave you out, the Lani, the Mi, the Amungme, the Komoro, the Yali, the Damal and the Moni. And the government tried to make them illegal and sent them all clothing. And for so many generations, they'd gone without clothing and been totally nude, except for these penis gourds. The clothing actually gave them rashes. And all they do now is they use shorts, sometimes, to put on their heads. But they continue to go naked.
I love the fact that when you read the tribes out, you went, you know, not to offend anyone. That would be a brilliant point of view when they turn up.
Yes, it would. Yes.
You missed out my tribe!
Yes, in an otherwise thoroughly enjoyable programme. Exactly. So, why is it so difficult to research the sexual habits of penguins?
They're very private.
It's not really that they're private.
cold.
Yeah.
It's cold, certainly.
You see, because it's graphic. It's quite
Well, it used to be difficult to describe because we used to be very prudish.
Yes, I mean, Scott's trip, the
Yeah.
Antarctic expedition, he did. Levick, the scientist, wrote it all out in Greek. He was so appalled
Absolutely
by what
right. He wrote it in ancient Greek, knowing that only a gentleman would be able to translate it. Yes. George Murray Levick, who was the naturalist on Scott's ill-fated expedition, and he discovered what he called the astonishing depravity of penguin behaviour, which include rampant homosexuality. Not just homosexuality, but rampant.
Be fair, it's Antarctica, there's nothing else to do.
But no, you're right. Necrophilia, and I'm sorry to say
And on the
paedophilia.
night off, they dress as pandas. Which
So-
just muddies the water.
So he wrote his account in ancient Greek, absolutely right, so that an educated English gentleman would be the only person to understand it.
When we've got the penguins in the London Zoo, are they doing all this in full view of school parties?
Oh, they may well be. His particular species...
You've got to have.
Yeah.
You've got to go to the zoo a lot before you go, not Kevin. Generally, you just go, there's penguins.
I'm just worried whether there's a warning
Yeah.
outside the penguin enclosure.
How would you phrase that for visiting school parties? Warning, penguin might be buggering. Anti-uncle. Stephen, maybe they can't tell, right? And I just don't go mad, and the animal rights people or anyone else. But maybe if we drug them and sex them, and then we put tiny bikinis on some of them, then the grown-up penguins can tell who they should be having sex with and who they
Not
shouldn't.
bikinis, a nun's habit.
That would confuse the priests.
But the Adelie penguins were the kind that this man looked at, and it's now thought that his idea of necrophilia was probably wrong.
They were asleep.
Yeah, they were.
Was it not that there's a female lying there dead with her eyes sort of like that?
Yeah.
Looked a bit like a come hither look to a penguin.
Yes, they can't tell the difference between a frozen dead one and a living one. They look as if they're coming onto you if they're just lying there dead.
I've had that experience quite
It's actually very hard to sex a penguin, by which I mean to determine its gender.
Not to them,
Give
presumably.
it that step.
Not for them. They seem to know instinctively, either by smell or by some other thing. One of the common ways of being pretty sure, assuming it's a straight penguin, is muddy footprints on the female. Tells you that it's a female because it's been walked on by the male.
The feminists are going to love this bit.
Well, it's just...
Footprints on a woman. After sex.
It's quite Almodovar, though, isn't it, if it's high heels? But I don't think it is high heels in the case of penguins.
No.
You don't think?
I don't know. I was trying to be sort of, not too assertive in my knowledge. Their life is astounding. I mean, you kind of think they have drawn the short straw in life. I mean, the miserable cold they have to endure for so long.
Is it true they used to fall over during the Falklands? Is that true? Because I don't know whether it's true or not, but that they were on... That lots of planes came over which they hadn't
Yeah, and
seen
they-
Oh, yes,
before,
that's right.
and They went, whoa!
It's unfortunately a myth, it's not.
Oh, it's not
But
true. Oh, it's a lovely story.
It's a nice story, but it's not true. Yes.
Can you imagine, in the bird world, if you introduced postcodes, penguins would move?
Yes, they would.
Yeah, somewhere
SW3.
warmer and bigger wings and...
Yeah.
I don't think they would want to move because they've got flippers and
I know.
flat feet. They need ice and to
They're
move
born
around
for it.
on. They're not going to say, I'm going to move to the Himalayas or I'm going to move
No.
somewhere.
Well,
rocky.
you know what, Janet? You haven't thought this through, because, one, they wouldn't know what a postcode is. Two, they can't fly, and I doubt one of them getting on a plane by themselves, acting casual after raping all the family. I would imagine they'd be on a no-flight... I'm just saying, in an ideal world, given the choice, the penguins would go, we've had the short end of the deal.
That was my
That's
point.
all I'm saying. Don't turn this into question time.
It's like being in a home for the elderly.
It really is. The cuckoo will
You
come
keep
out soon.
taking me stuff.
All right. Whatever...
Are we having fish?
Wheel him into the sunlight.
Shut up, Mr. Penguin.
So, now, how did a bunch of choir boys plan to drive Hitler mad? We've been very literal there. There's Hitler in a straitjacket.
It's a plot. I do know this.
Yeah.
Porn.
Pornography.
Pornography. They were going to drive him mad with pornography.
That's absolutely right.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
They had groups called the Cowboys,
Yeah.
who were behind enemy lines, and
yeah.
the choir boys were the people in Washington.
That's
and they came
right.
up bonkers ideas.
All kinds of suggestions. I mean, a lot we did too. Bouncing bombs, ridiculous. And yet that was one that worked. And Churchill chose the date precisely in May 1943, when the floods were at their full height in the dams, and he was in Washington, so that if it worked, he could announce it. And it would be the first real invasion into German territory that caused a massive difference. And Lord Charwell, his scientific advisor, said to him reportedly, but what if it doesn't work? And Churchill said, then no one will ever hear anything about it. Mm-hmm. And that's the point about these mad schemes. There were all these kind of, really zany plans, but most of them we don't know about, and a lot of them were covered up, and probably we never will. We know about the ones that work.
But
This is one that didn't work, but we do know about.
Wasn't it? It was smut. They were going to drop
Basically, it's
smut
pornography. Yeah.
all over Germany.
Well, particularly to drive Hitler mad
Yeah.
over Berchtesgaden, where his residence.
So leaflets were going to cascade down.
I was going to
from
drive
the
him
sky.
mad.
Absolutely. The US Army Air Corps described it as insane and refused to do it. But it did have an important role to play, pornography. And, of course, these were ones that the Germans dropped on the Allies, because they did the same thing. Germans and Japanese. We didn't have much of a porno war effort in Britain. We were squeamish, the senior officers. One was quoted saying he would rather lose the war than take part, which is extraordinary. Air Marshal Sir Arthur Bomber Harris didn't approve, said it was just like sending them free lavatory paper.
What does it say about our troops that the German troops were willing to drop the pornography and I was going, well, I'm not giving it away. Keep it,
I like to
Frank.
think it was a more decent reason than that, Johnny.
We'll sell it when we get back.
Dropping leaflets was a big thing. The first the Danes knew of the Germans invading, really, was that the leaflets...
Yes,
the
leaflet dropping generally
of
was
it, yeah.
a huge thing, absolutely right. It was what kind of sort of black op, I suppose we call now.
Do you know, you must know, Stephen, about the eavesdropping cat that the CIA came up with, which is the most brilliant idea. They got this cat and they inserted a transmitter and the aerial was in its tail. And this was in Moscow. And the idea was that it would walk past Russian spies sitting on a bench and it would overhear. And they spent millions on this cat. And it was terrific and they've worked it all out. And on its very first outing at the park, he got hit by a taxi.
It was known as Acoustic Kitty.
That's right, Acoustic Kitty.
Kitty, yeah, poor Acoustic Kitty.
The bouncy bomb would be a war crime now, wouldn't it? For the civilians killed.
There were a lot of civilians killed. I don't know if it was a legitimate war target or not. In total war, really, I don't think it was.
Since they've agreed.
There was a very good story I came across when I was writing a script for the Dunbusters. And there was one of the members of one of the crews which crashed after dropping its bomb and was picked up by the Germans. And they were treated pretty well. And one of them said, well, what do you need? You know, according to the laws of the Geneva Convention, are you thirsty? I said, a glass of water would be lovely. And he said, are you joking? You have just destroyed our water supply. And that was the first time the guy realised that one of the bombs had actually worked. And that's how he found out that the Myrna had gone. He was saying there is no water, which is quite sweet in its own peculiar way. Anyway, one mad idea to bring the war was to use pornography to drive Hitler mad, as if he wasn't already. So, what is 80% of the Kama Sutra about? Back to kinkiness.
Hygiene.
Hygiene.
Gymnastics.
Intercourse.
Oh, dear me, no. Well, intercourse can have other meanings, of course, but no, the fact is only 20% is about sex. Most of it is about all kinds of other fascinating subjects. How to be a good citizen, insights into relationships between men and women, tips on tattooing, the art of making a bed, playing on musical glasses which are filled with water, making lemonade, solving word puzzles, knowledge of mines and quarries, the art of cockfighting, the art of teaching parrots and starlings to speak. 9 pages devoted to the care of wives, and 26 pages on how to seduce other men's wives. A bit strange.
I love this idea of a child setting up a lemonade stand and saying, courtesy of the Kama Sutra.
Yes.
And on the video, on the film of the book...
Yes, of 20% of the book,
there's
possibly.
very, very little starling chat.
I suspect you were getting a video of 20% of the Kama Sutra.
Yeah.
The author was a celibate Indian sage, so what he knew, goodness knows, he was called Vatsyayana, and he lived sometime between the 1st and 6th century. Sometimes, very cleverly, there's a moral tone that distances itself between what it tells you. It says, for example, all oral sex is wrong. It then spends pages and pages of you telling you how to do it. Now, who came up with a missionary position?
A missionary.
What is the missionary position?
It's the approved position.
Yes.
By missionaries.
Missionary
Lady on the back, man on top.
Yeah, it's a mistake made by the famous sexologist Kinky, who named it.
What has been photoshopped out of that picture?
Yeah.
Has Mrs. Kinsey been removed?
He, of course, wrote a book on the sexuality of the American male and the American female, all of which shocked America extraordinarily. He, for example, said that 96% of American males masturbate regularly, and he was asked what the hell that said about the American male. He said it says 4% lie. But as far as the missionary position is concerned, it was an anthropologist called Bronislaw Malinowski who described an engaged couple holding hands and leaning against each other in what was known as missionari si bubonela, missionary fashion. And that was just friendliness leaning on each other. It was nothing to do with man-on-top sex. He said it was introduced by white traders, planters or officials, but never used the word missionary. But it was Kinsey who somehow just got it wrong. Kinsey himself was a very odd man. He had an irrational hatred of the potato.
Even chips.
I guess all forms of potato that you can
Do you
think
know
of.
why?
No, it was irrational, that's the point.
I was married to a man that had an irrational fear of tomatoes. He was a great big burly film director, very macho bloke, but put a tomato in front of him and he'd start crying.
Day in, day out, he did that. Cherry wine in the medicine cabinet.
With a tomato.
Did you know what? Did you know why? This
Irrational.
Irrational
If there was a reason, it would be a rational fear of tomatoes.
There's no such thing as a rational fear of tomatoes. That's ridiculous. A rational fear can have some
As
starting
a child,
point.
the tomato reared up at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I knew is if I didn't want to have sex, I had a tomato sandwich by the bed.
Very clever.
Always worked.
Come on, Janet. Oh, God, there's a tomato sandwich. Good night.
When Kinsey was nervous, he would speak in a Scottish accent, although he was born and raised in New Jersey.
Oh, God,
That was right. We don't even know if he-
I'm afraid.
That's right. And he trained himself to be able to insert pencils into his penis.
What do you mean into his penis?
Into the urethra, I assume.
He trained himself.
No.
You wouldn't shame anyone else, would you, to
No.
do that?
I might have put a sign up and then just thought, due to lack of applicants.
But not only a pencil, a toothbrush bristles first.
No!
You know what? Every year, when his wife's going, it's impossible to buy for, and he's going, a travel pouch, a pencil case, I'm tired of carrying things round in my penis. No!
Look, his wife actually said, I don't see much of Alfred since he got interested in sex, which is a terribly sad thing for a wife to say of a husband. But why he pushed things up his penis, again, I've
Irrational.
no idea. So, anyway, which of these foods would give you the same number of calories as used in the average sex session?
I don't think it's a lot of...
You don't think it's
I
many
think it's
calories?
quite a lot.
You think it's a lot?
You think it's pizza lot?
I think it's about 400 calories.
400 calories, which would be a good pizza at least, wouldn't it?
Maybe a slice of pizza, not a
Slice of
full one.
pizza. Yeah. You think it's fewer?
I'm going to go for the steak.
Well, it's interesting.
Gonna go for the burger.
You'll have the burger.
I'll have a slice of tart.
You'll have a slice of tart. Hey.
But without the bread.
Without the bread. And
I
what
love
about you?
the courgette and the shrimp. 'Cause
That's
it's got
probably pretty
quite
good.
a lot of possibilities.
Yes, that is a good point. Well, David Allison, who's a biostatistician at the University of Alabama, looked into it. And the average sex session takes only 6 minutes.
What, from beginning to end?
So the amount of calories used would be 20. That's about the same as one egg white or a very small meringue. You are.
Does the 6 minutes include the bit where you watch the news? Is it...
To see if you've made it on.
Well,
We've done it. Let's put the news on.
Kinsey showed that it is no easy task describing people's sex lives, so these figures are obviously up for argument. 2008 survey by Durex, who might be regarded as having a sort of vested interest as makers of oh, that's The Graduate, isn't it? The stage version. Anyway,
She's got that look, hasn't she?
she has. That was a disappointment,
Yeah.
quite clearly.
That was half a meringue.
Yeah.
You're trying to seduce me, Mrs. Robinson?
Anyway, Durex reported the average Briton enjoys 22.5 minutes of foreplay. While another survey at around the same time in Men's Health claimed that British men only last 18.64 minutes from foreplay to climax. So if we level out those different statistics, we could argue the British men take, in terms of actual intercourse itself, minus 3.86 minutes.
In the Second World War, they used condoms to protect the ends of the rifle.
In the north, in the final
It
attack
was
on Norway.
hugely successful, so successful that they decided they could do with some for their 18-inch guns, and special condoms were manufactured by...
Is this the Churchill story?
Yes, by
they
Durex,
told
I
us
think.
On QI. But don't tell it again.
No, it's just Churchill insisted that they be sent out in boxes marked for British service personnel use only, size small.
Yeah. He added, that'll show him who's the master race. So, if you want to work off the weight gain by eating a tiny meringue, sex should do it. Now it's time for one of my knickknacks, a little scientific experiment. All I have to do, yes, I know it's terribly exciting, isn't it, is bring up this. I don't know if you can see in here, tiny little grains of a little kind of little crystalline matter. And a bottle here.
Salt and vinegar.
Oh, it looks like salt and vinegar. Bizarrely, that is what is used for flavouring salt and vinegar, sodium acetate. It's got caustic soda and vinegar, which is what makes sodium acetate, and it's then dissolved slowly in water. It's very unstable. If I shook it, it would instantly crystallise, so I've got to be very careful about this. But if you add it to crystals, it also crystallises, and I hope to make a dildo for you.
Oh, good.
A dildo just out of this liquid. I'm going to stand up to do it if the camera allows me to, because it needs a steady hand, and I need to keep rising as I'm slowly pouring. It's a bit like making mayonnaise, you know, very slowly adding the.
It's nothing
oil.
like making mayonnaise.
No, you very slowly.
You're making a phallus.
You very no, in terms of the making, but in
This
terms of
could
the
ruin
pouring.
Mother's Day for some people.
Slowly pour it. Can you see there's a tiny bit of crystal on there? It's a really very, very small amount.
Yeah, yeah.
OK.
Here we are. I've got a steady, slow stream. Let's just hope it works.
I say.
It's a snowman dildo. We're walking in the... We're going to land for just a while. Snowman needs his private time. Get off me back.
It's not very easy to be very accurate. I've got to keep doing higher, otherwise it'll touch itself and then it will blow back into the bottle. Well, there you go. How's that? Exothermic nucleation for the science heads out there. It's slightly warm. It feels rather gorgeous. And, I mean... it's a nice...
It made one earlier.
It's a nice consistency. It's not poisonous, it's not dangerous, but it's a wonderful effect, isn't it? Yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah, there you are. It's not an absolutely perfect dildo, but...
What's disturbing is it looks like mine.
Yes, exactly. So that was the supersaturated sodium acetate knick-knack. And these are the final scores. And for possibly the first time, we have 3 people on plus scores. It's thrilling. What? The winner with 11 is Sandy Toksvig. In a very, very fine second place with 3 points is Johnny Vegas. And with a shatteringly impressive +2, Janet Street Porter. Brilliant. And the only one plunging into sub-zero conditions, I'm afraid, is Alan Davis with -15. So it's good night from Sandy, Johnny, Janet, Alan and me. Be very, very special with yourselves. Goodbye. Bye.